Welcome back to the deep dive. We are ripping the Band-Aid off today, plunging straight into a source document that is proving to be a true acid test for the entire real estate investing community.
It really is.
We are unpacking Dispo Paul's manifesto from DispoDragons, a full-scale blueprint on how AI is not just assisting but fundamentally re-architecting real estate underwriting.
And this isn't just about, faster comps. This is a strategic ultimatum. Paul's core thesis is simple, cutting, and frankly, it's impossible to ignore.
Go on.
If you are still manually pulling comparable sales, if you're spending your day in the, quote, data mines, you have ceased to be a high-level investor.
Right.
You are now, by his definition, a highly paid data entry clerk.
That is the essential, uncomfortable truth we need to confront here. Our mission in this deep dive is to guide you through the transition from that data entry mindset, which he calls the laborer, to the strategic mindset of the architect.
Yes.
We're going to unpack the architecture, the specific rules, and all the strategic implications of this system, which he calls the Analyst-in-a-Box.
And that's the key. We are dissecting the blueprint for achieving automated high-fidelity strategy. The difference between the laborer and the architect, he says, is not their ambition. It's not about who works harder.
It's their application of leverage.
Exactly. The laborer applies raw effort to input numbers. The architect, on the other hand, designs the intelligent system that generates the actual truth, freeing up the human to focus exclusively on high-value activity.
And what determines that difference is the pursuit of one single non-renewable resource.
Sovereignty of time.
Sovereignty of time. Let's jump in.
Let's do it.
Okay, so let's unpack this laborer's trap. For the active investor, what does this actually look like day to day? And, why does Paul call it a trap? It sounds a bit traumatic.
Well, it feels dramatic when you're in it. The manifesto paints a really vivid picture of this laborer phase. It's the ritual, right? You open 10 browser tabs.
I know this ritual.
We all do. You're spending hours bouncing between Zillow, Redfin, PropStream, maybe running a search on the MLS if you have access.
Right. Copying, pasting.
You are manually confirming the gross living area, the GLA, the year built, checking tax records for any discrepancies, and trying, often just through sheer willpower, to determine a reliable after-repair value, or ARV.
And the laborer, I guess, is measuring their productivity by the size of their spreadsheet.
That's it. And the number of minutes they feel the hustle.
And this is where the core deception lies, isn't it? We've all been conditioned to believe that hustle is proportional to the number of hours spent in front of the screen. Paul argues that this is a fundamental misunderstanding of leverage. If your time is spent on clerical validation that could be outsourced to a machine, you are actively choosing low-leverage activity over high-leverage strategy.
Correct. And that's the whole goal of the architect.
Yeah.
The goal is implementing what Paul terms an automated empire, specifically to achieve that sovereignty of time.
And what does that mean, really? Sovereignty of time.
It's the ability to dictate how and where you spend your focus, shifting from the tedious work of verification to the highly lucrative work of negotiation and strategy.
Let's nail down the ultimate deliverable here. It's not just speed, it's mental bandwidth.
Yes.
We need to frame this as the ultimate form of leverage. Because if the machine is validating the data, what is the human actually doing?
The human is doing the parts of the deal that cannot be automated. Building rapport with motivated sellers, structuring complex creative financing deals, managing the disposition pipeline.
The human stuff.
The truly human stuff. The machine is built for objectivity. The human is built for relationship and negotiation. When you achieve sovereignty of time, you shift from being a detective chasing data to a CEO managing strategic relationships.
But let's get specific about the true opportunity cost. Because it's easy to dismiss, 15 minutes per deal. The laborer thinks, oh, I'll just work an extra hour tonight.
I'll just grind it out.
But the manifesto breaks down the actual cumulative loss, and it's strategic, not just about time.
The sources are brutal about this analysis. For an investor chasing the high-spread deals, the ones Paul cites yielding $50,000 or more in profit, the cost is catastrophic.
50 grand.
50 grand or more. If an active investor is personally or even semi-manually checking every single lead that comes in, they are sacrificing 2 hours or more every single day to clerical work.
2 hours. That might not sound like much to some people, but when you look at the cognitive load, it's a silent killer.
It is.
You cannot expect to jump from the tedious, fragmented task of hunting down tax records to a high-stakes, nuanced negotiation with a seller who's in financial distress. That mental friction, that context switching, it just kills your ability to perform elite deal-making.
Absolutely. The time spent manually confirming a deal's viability is time lost. Being on the phone with a motivated seller, building trust, or, structuring a complex lease option or a subject to transaction.
Those are the $50,000 activities.
Those are the activities that generate the 50K spreads. If your brain is fried from navigating 4 contradictory data sources, you lack the clarity needed to structure that creative financing. You're trading high spread potential for low spread certainty, all because you're acting as a data entry clerk.
And this wasn't just a concept for DispoDragons, it was a matter of business survival. Let's look at the genesis story of this Analyst-in-a-Box. It started as a purely internal move, right? Because Paul himself became the bottleneck.
That's often how the best business solutions are born out of pure necessity. Paul realized his acquisition managers, these highly compensated closers who were supposed to be the relationship experts,
The rainmakers.
they were spending huge chunks of their day acting like researchers. The high cost of their payroll was being applied to a low-value clerical task.
Which is just the definition of a scaling failure. You hire elite talent, but the lack of infrastructure forces them into the low-level work. They were paid to be elite closers, but they were acting like high-priced VAs.
So the immediate goal was to free up those closers. The system was designed to perform cold, objective data validation instantaneously. The goal was to turn the closers back into closers and transform the system from a cost center into a core infrastructure asset that enabled exponential scaling without exponential payroll.
So that brings us to this idea of the underwriting bottleneck as the silent killer of profit margins. We know the 15-minute time drain per deal, but what is the systemic problem with this 15-minute comp trap in high-volume investing?
The systemic problem isn't the 15 minutes itself. It's the lack of frictionlessness.
Right.
Every single manual interaction, logging in, switching tabs, copy-pasting an address, is a point of friction.
A tiny little speed bump.
A tiny speed bump that adds up. For a high-volume investor, every 15 minutes spent on a dud deal is a 15-minute slot where your team could have been generating new leads or, more crucially, qualifying motivated sellers who are actually ready to sign.
And the cost just multiplies with volume. If you process 20 leads a day and say 15 of them are duds,
Which is pretty standard.
that's almost 4 hours of manual time wasted every single day, just confirming that properties aren't viable. This cumulative loss is what truly erodes focus and, ultimately, profitability.
But the time loss is secondary to the introduction of systemic flaw, and that is human error and bias. This is the core reason the machine exists.
Okay, we have to analyze the psychological flaws of the manual process here. The sources are so clear on this. The machine is designed to be purely objective precisely because the human cannot be.
This is a critical psychological insight. VAs, junior analysts, even seasoned investors often approach underwriting with what Paul calls the hope factor.
The hope factor, I like that.
They want the deal to work, right?
Yeah.
Especially if they've already spent 2 days talking to the seller. This psychological pressure leads to biased after-repair values. They might consciously stretch the radius a little bit, just beyond what is truly comparable.
Or they overlook a small but critical detail, a crack in the foundation in a picture, because they need the ARV to hit a certain number to justify the purchase price.
It's not malicious. It's self-preservation bias. The human advocate sees what they want to see to secure the commission or just to justify the work they've already invested. The machine has no commission, no ego, and no hope. It is a neutral auditor.
And that bias, it must manifest in specific, sometimes catastrophic errors that only happen when information is fragmented.
That's the word he uses, fragmentation. The laborer is forced into it. They jump between 4 websites trying to cross-reference data points like square footage or the year it was built. This just opens the door to human error, where the analyst might, inadvertently use the gross living area from Zillow, but the tax record year from Redfin, creating an inaccurate composite.
Can you give us a concrete example? What are some of the specific errors the machine is auditing that a human often misses?
The manifesto cites 2 perfect examples that demonstrate the machine's superiority in auditing context. First, highway boundaries.
Okay.
A human analyst might see a comp half a mile away and assume it's relevant. The machine, however, is hard-coded to recognize a major highway or an arterial road as a non-negotiable geographical break.
So if the comp is on the other side of that break.
The machine instantly eliminates it. It recognizes that the market value is fundamentally different. Second example, GLA discrepancies. A human might accept a 2,000 square foot comp for an 1,800 square foot property. The machine applies strict, non-negotiable variance rules to ensure the comps are truly apples to apples in size, which minimizes distortion from outliers.
And this speaks directly to the scalability challenge you mentioned earlier. If your solution to doubling deal flow is to just double your analyst payroll,
You're in trouble.
you're not only doubling your cost structure, but you are exponentially increasing the points of human error and bias.
Precisely. That linear growth model creates a deeply fragile business that relies on subjective labor. The automated system, on the other hand, operates 204/7. It doesn't suffer from fatigue, it doesn't take a vacation, and it always applies the hard-coded objectivity. This is how the architect moves from a linear growth model, where payroll limits deal flow, to an exponential one, where infrastructure enables unlimited lead processing.
So the solution headline for the entire problem is really crystallized in one metric: the difference between the machine delivering 90 seconds of truth versus 15 minutes of hope. That's not just a time saving, it's a strategic weapon.
90 seconds of objective, machine-validated, zero-bias truth. That is the new baseline for efficient underwriting.
Now, this is where we transition into the technical architecture.
Yeah.
And Paul is doing something incredibly unusual here. He is giving away the entire blueprint.
Yeah, it's a bold move.
He's encouraging you, the listener, to understand the sequence so you can replicate it, or at least understand the sophistication behind the engine you might acquire.
This transparency is strategic. He's inviting the industry to level up. The architecture he lays out is a seamless, 5-stage automated pipeline, specifically designed to eliminate all human friction between receiving the lead and validating the ARV.
Okay, let's look at the flow. Input, research, brain, pipes, and report. And it all starts with the simplest possible entry point,
Stage 1, the trigger.
which is Google Sheets.
Yeah. Every sophisticated workflow needs an elegant entry point. Google Sheets functions as a data ingestion point and the inbox for the entire engine.
It's deceptively simple, isn't it? The moment a user, a VA, or an integration enters a basic property address or an MLS link, whether that lead came from direct mail, a cold call, or a JV partner, the entire automation sequence is instantly triggered.
It's the starting gun for the 90-second race to truth.
Okay, stage 2, the research engine. Here's where we get technical, but let's slow this down. Most investors, when they hear AI, they immediately think of like ChatGPT, which is prone to what we call hallucination.
Right, it just makes stuff up confidently.
So what does stage 2 do to solve that crucial problem?
This is the single most critical guardrail against bad data. If you feed garbage data to the most powerful AI model in the world, you get sophisticated garbage back. The role of Perplexity AI here is not to analyze. It is to fact-check.
Okay, fact check.
We can think of Perplexity as a hyper-specialized digital detective.
So it's not relying on its generalized, training data from 2 years ago.
Exactly. DispoDragons uses the Perplexity API to perform a deep web sniff of live property records. It hunts down the most current, verifiable data from sources like live MLS entries, Zillow, and Redfin. It ensures the data set that moves to the next stage. The brain is grounded in 100% factual, live, and cross-referenced information.
It's the foundation setting phase.
It prevents the entire downstream analysis from collapsing.
Okay, so now we have clean, verified data. We get to stage 3, the brain. This is Gemini 3.0 Pro.
The heavy hitter.
Why this model?
It's chosen because it's built for enterprise-level reasoning and complex data tasks. But as you said, simply asking a general AI to comp a deal is useless. The genius lives in the hard coding of the real estate DNA.
This is the proprietary logic.
This is what separates an investor who uses a generic AI widget from an architect who has engineered a purpose-built underwriting system. The brain doesn't just read data. It applies context and non-negotiable rules of engagement that reflect expert market knowledge.
Let's detail those rules because they dictate the objectivity. These are the parameters that define what a truly comparable sale is in Dispo Paul's model. What's the rule on distance?
Rule 1. The radius is maxed at 0.75 miles. This is non-negotiable. If a comp is outside that tight circle, the brain instantly eliminates it.
Why so tight?
The strategic genius behind this strict boundary is the elimination of outlier market noise instantly. Most laborers, out of desperation, they'll stretch to 1 mile or 1.5 miles.
Oh, for sure. This one almost works.
Right. The architect understands that anything beyond 0.75 miles introduces too many variables. A different subdivision, a slightly different school boundary, a change in road noise that fundamentally distort the ARV.
I have to push back on that, though. My rule here is to be slightly skeptical. A 0.75-mile radius works beautifully in dense metro areas, say Philadelphia or Dallas. But what if I'm investing in a more rural or spread-out market? Doesn't that tight radius become too restrictive and eliminate necessary high-quality comps?
That's an essential distinction, and it's a great question. The manifesto acknowledges that the DNA has to be adjusted for regional strategy. But within the context of high-volume metro wholesale, which is DispoDragons' specialty, the tightness is a competitive edge.
So you'd change the code for a different market?
For a rural market, the architect would program the DNA to perhaps 2.0 miles, but, and this is key, they'd introduce new, highly specific filters, maybe related to lot size or proximity to natural features. The core principle remains. The machine enforces the radius defined by the expert, which eliminates the laborer's subjective stretching.
That makes sense. It's about enforcing an objective standard, even if the standard itself must be tailored. Okay, what about the size variance?
Rule 2. The variance is a strict plus or minus 20% square footage tolerance. This ensures that the comps are truly comparable in size. You can't compare a 1,200 square foot home to a 2,200 square foot home and call it comparable. The simple rule minimizes distortion caused by massive size differences, which often inflate or deflate the perceived value of the subject property.
And the third critical rule, the grade. The machine must filter for renovated properties only.
Exactly. The goal is to establish the after-repair value. Therefore, the comps must reflect a fully renovated, top-of-market sale. The brain is programmed to analyze listing descriptions and keywords to ensure it compares a potential flip to a recently flipped property, not an untouched 1980s rental or a distressed sale.
And then the advanced logic. This is where the system truly acts as an expert auditor, going beyond just simple distance and size. It's the contextual layer.
This is the key strategic insight Paul is giving away. The brain is programmed to audit contextual details that a junior analyst would almost certainly miss or just overlook in a rush.
Like what?
Like auditing those highway boundaries we mentioned and ensuring all comps fall within the same school districts. These sociological and geographical boundaries often dictate micro-market pricing, sometimes by tens of thousands of dollars. This customized DNA guarantees truly comparable deals, allowing the high-fidelity underwriting to be achieved in that mind-blowing metric.
90 seconds.
90 seconds.
Incredible. Okay, stage 4, the nervous system. What's connecting all these pieces?
Make.com. If the brain is the intelligent engine, then Make.com is the automation infrastructure, the nervous system. It's the highly efficient digital bridge that ensures everything flows seamlessly.
For those who haven't used these tools, explain the function of Make.com in plain language before we dive into the technical details.
Think of it as the ultimate digital coordinator. Its function is to eliminate the copy and paste friction. It's the invisible glue that takes the verified data from the research engine, sends the instruction to the brain, to Gemini, waits 90 seconds for the structured analysis, and then directs that finalized report into the appropriate delivery vehicle.
So whether it's a Google Doc or a CRM entry.
Right. The laborer spends time manually moving the data between platforms. The architect uses the nervous system to ensure the process, once triggered, is fully autonomous.
It's all about zero touch after that first entry.
It ensures that once the address is entered into the Google Sheet, the process is zero touch. It is the architect's solution to eliminating friction points, the places where human errors like misspellings, missed data fields, or incorrect file naming conventions are often introduced. It guarantees data integrity from start to finish.
Which brings us to stage 5, the output. The lead is ingested, the data is verified, the brain applies the DNA, the nervous system pipes it out. What lands in the acquisition manager's inbox?
A professional, bolded, 2-page brief, typically in Google Docs. It's structured for immediate action. The key attribute here is trust through transparency. It is labeled a zero hallucination brief.
How does Paul ensure that level of trust? That's always the sticking point with AI reports, the confidence in the output. How do you know it's real?
Total transparency. The brief is required to include the raw URLs for every single comp used in the 90-second analysis.
Oh, that's smart.
It ensures 100% data integrity and auditability. The acquisition manager doesn't have to waste time finding the comps. They can verify the machine's work in seconds, but the speed allows them to immediately move to the next stage. Calling the seller with confidence in the numbers, they shift from validation to execution.
We've established the architecture is robust and, potentially industry-changing. But the big question for the listener is, what is Paul's strategic intent after giving away the blueprint? Why this hybrid partner or pay model? Why not just license the software?
It's a sophisticated business strategy. It's designed to capture the immense value generated by the system while maintaining exclusivity and quality control. By giving away the blueprint, he demonstrates the intellectual property's power. But he knows that time, Technical complexity and proprietary expertise, that hard-coded DNA, are massive practical hurdles.
So you're saying 99% of investors, even the high-volume ones, they simply won't build it themselves?
Absolutely not. The manifesto highlights the specific snags. Most investors will struggle with the technical integration, getting the APIs talking to each other via make.com. That's a headache. But the deeper, more strategic failure will be the inability to accurately hard-code their specific proprietary real estate DNA.
They won't know the rules.
They won't. They might use a 1.00-mile radius when 0.75 is optimal, or they might fail to program the necessary school district auditing logic. They lack the expert knowledge needed to create a system that is truly objective and high fidelity.
It's the difference between having the ingredients list and knowing how to execute the Michelin star recipe.
That's a perfect analogy.
So, recognizing that barrier, Paul offers 3 clear paths to leverage the machine. Let's look at path 1, the inner circle, coaching.
This path is focused on immediate results for their high-ticket coaching students. The psychological barrier here is implementation risk. Students pay for the knowledge and the infrastructure. They receive the full Analyst-in-a-Box infrastructure installed and running on day 1.
0 delay.
The goal is 0 delay. They bypass the months of development and technical debugging, achieving immediate leverage and maximizing their deal flow from the moment they join.
So this path is for the investor who understands that their time in the market closing deals is exponentially more valuable than their time spent building a technical asset. They buy the weapon immediately to start fighting.
And path 2 is pure collaboration. This is a brilliant funnel mechanism. JV partners, the collaboration.
Yeah.
This is a win-win system that leverages the machine as a risk-free validation tool.
Explain the mechanism. Paul's machine will audit a deal for free if the investor has it under contract. What's the strategic goal here?
The strategic goal is twofold: quality control and deal funnel optimization. The investor gets free, objective, machine-verified underwriting. If the machine validates the deal, if the numbers hold up under the cold, hard rigor of the AI's DNA,
Then what?
the investor partners with the DispoDragons ecosystem. DispoDragons then leverages their elite disposition team to move that deal.
So DispoDragons minimizes their risk entirely. They only commit their valuable disposition resources. Their closers, they're marketing to deals that have already been machine verified.
It eliminates the hope factor and ensures a high probability of closing. The investor gets the confidence of machine-validated numbers and access to an elite disposition team. It's a highly optimized funnel that uses the Analyst-in-a-Box as the ultimate filter.
It ensures every deal entering their ecosystem has been rigorously vetted against objective standards, maximizing efficiency and profit per deal.
Exactly.
And finally, path 3, which is crucial for established high-volume operations: the bespoke build, the efficiency tax. This is the ultimate time buyback mechanism.
This is for the teams that have significant volume but are bleeding critical closing time daily. They have the resources, but they hit that technical barrier. They want the engine installed without the headache of building, debugging, or maintaining it. The psychological pain point here is the cost of missed deals due to slow underwriting versus the price of installation.
It's a pure done-for-you service.
Exactly. Paul's team installs the entire engine directly into the client's existing CRM and workflows. The client owns the asset, integrates into their shop, and immediately achieves the sovereignty of time. The acquisition managers instantly get their critical closing hours back, and the business shifts from linear to exponential growth overnight.
It's an efficiency tax that is easily justified by the sheer ROI of hours saved and deals closed faster.
Without a doubt.
The clarity here is profound. The game has shifted entirely. Whether you dedicate your time to learning the blueprint and building it, or you collaborate on deals to leverage the audit, or you pay the efficiency tax to have it installed, the core message remains the same. The decision to automate the data mines is no longer optional.
So we need to summarize this shift for the listener. The era of the manual comping labor is, strategically speaking, it's obsolete. The market is separating, and rapidly so, into 2 distinct high-performance groups.
The architects, those who use technology as a finely tuned weapon to generate objective truth and buy back their time, and the ones who are being buried by the constant, relentless data overload and the internal friction of manual validation. The underwriting bottleneck, that silent killer, is now the ultimate strategic differentiator.
The final metaphor in the manifesto is the perfect encapsulation of this transition. Stop being the nail. Start being the hammer.
I love that.
The hammer is the automated system that generates scalability, sovereignty of time, and relentless speed. It allows investors to dictate the pace of the market and focus on the human element of deal-making, rather than being subject to the clerical demands of data entry.
So what does this all mean for you, the high-level learner, the ambitious investor listening to this? This deep dive shows that the future of successful real estate investment hinges on a single strategic decision. You must either build the tools or you must acquire the tools. But you can no longer afford to return to manual labor.
You have to automate the data mines.
You have to automate the data mines to free up your mind for the high-spread creative opportunities that only a human strategist can execute.
And that leads to the final provocative thought we want to leave you with. If the analyst-in-a-box ensures absolute objectivity and removes human bias, which we've established is often rooted in the subconscious desire to hope a deal works, what previously accepted metrics or assumptions in your own real estate business that you rely on daily were actually based on subjective human desire rather than objective machine-validated truth?
Oof, that's a heavy question.
Think about it. Think about the areas you've always stretched, the comps you always wanted to work. What if your entire perception of value has been skewed by human hope? Furthermore, what other parts of your business lead qualification, disposition strategy, or even complex contract generation are still operating in that exhausting and inefficient laborer phase, simply waiting for an architect to automate them?
That's the real challenge of the manifesto. Find the labor and automate it. Find the hope and replace it with objective truth. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We'll talk to you next time.